haircut.
What's up, brother? How are you, sir?
Hey, it's better than it falling out.
Holiday market final report. 2020. Thank you. His microphone itself. Oh, the elder Griffin. I understand. Oh, I see.
How you doing?
Larry, can you hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me, Larry.
Good. Testing, testing.
Larry Griffin, can you hear us?
He said yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Got speakers.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. The time is now 7 p.m. I'll call to order the Monday, November 23rd, 2020 Blythewood Town Council meeting. And we will begin with the roll call. I'm here.
Present.
I'm here.
Present.
And I will just advise everyone, make sure you please speak into the microphone. We've had some folks that say they can't hear. So I know it sounds like you're projecting very loudly, like I do, but just get your mouth close to the microphone, please. Thank you. Ms. Cowan, did we have notification and posting of the meeting agenda in accordance with state law? Thank you. Then, gentlemen, before you is the agenda for tonight's meeting, and I'll be looking for the approval, but I will personally point out two small corrections. Paragraph 4, action items, B and C, that should be 2020 Holiday Market Final Report and 2020 Oktoberfest Final Report.
Mr. Mayor, I have another one.
Please, go ahead.
Paragraph 3, item B, be deleted.
Okay.
The other two exist on the items.
Mr. Mayor, I would also like to remove paragraph 6, executive session. The lady that was coming to present to us is in quarantine, and I do not feel that a phone call would serve her justice. And so I'd actually like to remove the executive session tonight to be rescheduled at a time after Thanksgiving, but before Christmas.
Okay. Any other changes, recommendations to change tonight's agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
take Same paragraph, item 3E off. I don't have any updated maps from GIS at this moment.
Any other corrections, amendments, adjustments? Okay. Any other corrections, additions, deletions? Okay. And I'll go over it line by line so he can hear. Okay, gentlemen, so I'll be looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda with the following changes. Paragraph 3, delete B as in Bravo. Paragraph 3, delete E as in Echo. Paragraph 4, change Bravo to 2020 Holiday Market. Change Charlie to 2020 Oktoberfest. Delete item D as in Delta. And delete the entire paragraph 6. Be looking for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
That's been properly motioned and seconded to approve tonight's agenda as amended. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The agenda is approved as amended. Thank you. Now we'll ask Councilman Ballman to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation tonight.
Flag's in the rear of the room. Y'all will turn around and face the flag. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Join me in prayer. Our Father and our God, I just come to you tonight, Father, just giving you thanks for who you are. Father, I do thank you for the many blessings you bestow upon us, Father. We just call on your presence here with us tonight. Father, I just ask that you guide and direct all that we say and do here tonight. Father, again, I just pray for those first responders that are on the front line, keeping us safe, allowing us to do what we do right here in town. Pray for our men and women in uniform as they, too, are protecting us, our very freedoms that we enjoy tonight. So, Father, again, guide and direct us in all we say and do. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Now we'll continue tonight with council member remarks, and we'll start on my right. Councilman Sloan Griffin.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Remember the season. Remember the true meaning of the season for Thanksgiving. It is a special time, but even more special now as we deal with COVID-19 and having to change up many festivities that we do as family and friends during this season. So make sure that we take care of our loved ones that can't come out. Bring a dinner to them, as I'm doing for some of mine. And be safe about it. If you have a temperature, remember the COVID-19 precautions, and not only protect yourself, but protect everyone else. Thank you for members of council that reached out to me in reference to my dad that had a motorcycle accident. He did come home this morning from Grady. So after 3 weeks of different surgeries and casts, so we have him home, and we're thankful for that. And we still remain prayerful to the family member that lost their other biker in that event in Atlanta, Georgia. That is all, Mr. Mayor, I have this evening. Thank you, and wish each and every one of you guys a happy holiday and be safe.
Thank you. Councilman Don Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to welcome everyone that came here tonight. Thanks, everyone, for braving the cold and the weather that we're having. But just want to say a couple things that Councilman-elect Pugh, myself, and Councilman Sloan Griffin were here on Friday morning to encourage people to come get tested. I actually received my first COVID test. do not know the results yet, but I expect it to be negative, so everyone's safe.
Well, thanks for being here. Go ahead.
I had no reason to get tested, I just wanted to be part of the
I
team.
understand. Just kidding.
They did check, Mr. Mayor, with the swab, and I do in fact have a brain, just in case you were wondering. A couple of things. I attended the rodeo on both nights. I would consider it a very successful event. My son and his Cub Scouts volunteered to help clean up, and so we were there both nights with that. We just got through elections, I think, and I would like to congratulate the following individuals on their elections to Richland County Council. In District 2, Councilman Derek Pugh. In District 7, Councilwoman Gretchen Barron. In District 8, Councilman-elect Overture Walker. In District 10, Councilwoman Cheryl English. And I also have the distinct privilege and honor of welcoming Councilwoman-elect Jessica Mackey from District 9 here tonight. And if it pleases you, Mr. Mayor, and the rest of the council, I would actually invite her to stand up and give a very brief remark.
Please.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Yes, absolutely.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Councilman Brock, thank you so much for inviting me. I greatly appreciate it. And as you stated, I am the councilwoman-elect for District 9 for Richland County, scheduled to be sworn in January, and I'm very excited to represent District 9, but as well all of Richland County. And so that's why I'm here tonight I know Councilman Brock, but look forward to meeting and getting to know the rest of you on council and working together as we move Richland County forward. So thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I conclude my remarks.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilman Ballman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be brief. I just want to throw some accolades out there to our staff, to Steve's staff, and everything for the great job that they did for the Veterans Day event here in the park. Just thought that thing went off wonderful. I thank you for your participation. I just thank everybody who had a part in it, but especially we're very proud of our town staff and the job that they do here, and sometimes they don't get the thanks that they deserve, so I wanted to make sure that we gave them an attaboy tonight. I see Margaret Kelly here. I wanted to give her a shout out too because of that wonderful event that you chaired and put on. It was great. I heard nothing but good things from everybody who attended. All the exhibits were wonderful. I mean, I thought the guest speakers were great. So just thank you and the Historical Society for what y'all do for the town and to keep us going, especially when you recognize our veterans. And Councilman Brock mentioned the rodeo, but I'd like to give a shout out to Buck and Christy Coggins on the job that they do every year and bringing people into town. I think that's just I never saw so many people on Saturday night, on Blythewood Road trying to get to the rodeo. So just, one of those things that we've got a lot to be proud of here in Blythewood, and we've got a lot of special volunteers that do a lot of good to bring, awareness to our town. So I just want to give them a shout out. And one of the other things I'll correct one of the minutes there in a little while when we get to our minutes from our meeting. I misspoke on Reese Across America. It was December the 19th, not December the 16th. So that is still very much up in the air as far as volunteers go. Arlington rescinded their order of not putting the reefs out, but the Army Secretary and the President kind of twisted some arms and they changed their mind real quick. But looking on the website here at Fort Jackson, it looks like right now there's no volunteers. The way it reads is they're going to do it with whatever their staff they have, maybe the military or somebody, but right now it looks like no volunteers will be able to show up and put reefs out this year. I'll keep you updated once I get further information for them, but from what I know right now, there will be no volunteers on the 19th. And that's my report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilman Griffin.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, please.
I'm clear, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Mayor and council member and guests. Just want to say thank you, council staff, for the prayers, well wishes that I received while I was in the hospital. I am still in recuperating stages, but I really thank you for everything that you've done for me and keep me in your prayers. Other than that, I've been doing homebound and back and forth to the doctor, but everything is well. I did get a few phone calls this past weekend Wanted to know what kind of festival we were having at the park up there, Doco, the farmer's market. So evidently, it did a great job and got a lot of people talking about it. Other than that, Mr. Mayor, I'm just glad to be here, glad to be able to be part of what's going on in the great town of Blythewood. Appreciate the time. Back to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank
Thank all
you.
you guys for your prayers, too.
And it's good to see you up and about, and thank you for joining us, too. We really appreciate it. I'll be brief tonight. Most of the council members have already said what I was going to say. The election, it's good to see that Richland County still has election integrity. I was proud of that as we continue forward with this mess we're dealing with. Veterans Day, one of the best events I've been to in many, many years. Miss Margaret Kelly, I just want you to know that. We didn't know how it would go with the expansion from the Blythewood Historical Society, a small area, and we moved it over to the amphitheater, and I just think it was fantastic. We had historical displays. We had many proud veterans come out. We had military vehicles, historic vehicles, and we had just a great time. Hopefully that will catch on, and next year we'll have double the crowd without this COVID virus going on. So thank you all, and thank your board. Prayers go out. Obviously, we spoke Councilman Sloan Griffin's father, Ed Parler, who recently had a medical procedure. We pray for him, and Larry Griff as he continues to recover from his surgery. The rodeo gets bigger and better every year. Pretty soon we got to find a stadium or something to put that thing in. But special thanks to Councilman Don Brock and his family as they stayed late hours to help clean up there and participate as volunteers. And that's what makes special events, is when you have a lot of good volunteers. So thank you all for coming tonight, and I'll close my remarks. And council members, we will move to paragraph H, the approval of the minutes from our special call meeting of October 13th, 2020, and our special call meeting of October 29th, 2020.
Like I said earlier, I just have that one correction on
Yeah.
page 2 under Councilman Baltman's remarks about Reach Across America.
Okay.
It said December 16th. It's actually the 19th, so I went ahead and made that change. I didn't send it to Melissa, but I figured we could make that change tonight. That was the only thing I saw.
Okay. Any other corrections or adjustments to the minutes?
Make a motion to approve as is with the, go ahead, Brock.
I was just going to say, was the special called meeting on the 29th, wasn't that conducted via Zoom? Does that need to be noted in the minutes?
We can add that. We can add that. Thank you. Sure.
That's the only
Okay.
correction that I see, sir.
Yeah. You were saying, Councilman Griffin?
Yeah. So I make a motion to approve with the amendment pieces from Councilman Baldwin and Brock.
Second.
All right, it's been probably motioned and seconded to approve the minutes from our previous two meetings with the two minor corrections. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have two presentations, the first of which is Love Bailey and Associates, our accounting firm which audits Blythewood annually, and I would like to ask the report to be given now. And this is the year ending June 30th, 2020.
All right, thank you. Let me leave this on though. Good. You want me to pull, is it okay if I pull it down?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like I'm muffled if I don't, so. It's good to see everyone here tonight. It's, we're at this point where it's unusual to give a presentation in person now. It seems like all of our presentations are via Zoom, so it's nicer to see people. In case I'm getting too boring, I can see your body language to move on. So I can't see that in Zoom. So, as usual, you have a thick audited financial statement. I just break it down into a couple of pages. I find that to be a little bit easier to digest than trying to go page by page. So, as we come in every year for the audit, we're doing two things. One, we're auditing the numbers, making sure they're accurate, materially accurate. And then we're looking at your processes and making sure there's nothing in the processes that we see that might need some improvement. Really have done just a really good job the last few years. It's gotten better than when we started several years ago to now. With you're outsourcing to the accounting firm, which I think is a very good control because you have a third party looking over things as well. So I would recommend to continue doing that. A lot of towns your size is doing that. The ones that are not, we're recommending that because it's a really good control to have. But really, your processes you're doing a fine job. We don't have any findings. We issued an unmodified opinion, which is the opinion you want, basically a clean opinion. That's the opinion that the town wants to receive. Everything else, everything's going really well. Even with COVID, I'm going to go over some of the numbers here, but even with COVID, the town really has, at least through June 30th, weathered the storm very nicely. I know you took a hit on a couple of the hospitality accommodation funds, but not too bad. Overall. If you remember, if you ever look at the governmental financial statements and you're familiar with businesses, like a business will have a balance sheet and income statement. So governmental financial statements sort of have two balance sheets and two income statements. The first one is based on GASB 34. The first was like an accrual basis, and the second one is fund basis. So I'm going to concentrate on the second two because that's how you approve your budget every year. So it would make a little more sense to use numbers that you approve in a budget every year. So I'm going to, if you want to follow, and I'm going to look at page 16. That's your balance sheet for governmental funds, and it shows the different funds that you have: general fund, accommodations, hospitality, capital projects. And you'll see you have really a clean balance sheet in the sense that it's top heavy. Lots of assets and very few liabilities. You see your cash balances at the end of the year, $2.253 million. That's been a steady increase, really. In 18, the unrestricted cash balances was 1.2. In 19, it was 1.8, and now it's 2.2. So it's had a nice steady incline, even with all that y'all have done in the town over the town keeps growing. I was pointing out that I come from Lawrence, so I don't know the road, but I'm coming down a long road, and then I cross over 77 as I'm coming in. I just noticed the amount of traffic. It seems like every year there's more traffic, that the towns keeps growing. And you see that like through franchise fees, how those are continue to increase. But $2.2 million in cash. Your restricted cash is $1.4 million at the end of the year, and that's mainly accommodation tax, hospitality funds, those kind of things that have limited use or restricted use for them. And then you'll see a couple other items on your assets. $375,000 is accounts receivable. Most of that is lost funds or franchise fees that were earned at 6/30, but they didn't get collected till July and August. So they belong in fiscal year 20 year end. And then the due from other funds, that's the Meadows, just money that you had put in over the years to get this thing up and going. And then you look at your liabilities, really just not much there. You have some accounts payable and accrued liabilities, such as accrued payroll taxes, $58,000. Nothing unusual there. That's just your normal ongoing payables that get paid when they're due. Good thing is that you have your fund balance is $4.3 million, and that was an increase of almost $1 million, or a little over $1 million from last year. And you'll notice that $2.8 million in the general fund column is unassigned fund balance. What that means is there's no restriction to it, so that the council can, as you're budgeting, you can use those funds how you feel needed. The Governmental Financial Officers Association, GFOA, recommends that you have at least 16.7%, which is basically 2 months of your operating expenditures in the unassigned fund balance. You all have approximately 183%. So very well funded based on what the GFOA says that you should have in there. And one thing you don't see here, I'll point out, is, as you know, the state retirement liability, as you know, state pension is underfunded by about $22 billion, and every participant, like the town of Blythewood, has an amount of that liability assigned to you. Yours went up. It was $1.09 million in fiscal year 19. It went up to $1.118 million in fiscal year 20. If you remember years ago when that got put on, the thought process was, hey, you're not going to have to pay this, but we got to record it somewhere because of GASB. The way the town and every participant's paid for it is the continued increase in the match. You know, currently you're paying 15.4% match for every one of your employees. And what that means to the town is every time it increases 1%, and it's increased about 4% in the last 4 years, every time it increases 1%, it costs the town about $6,000. That's not hiring any more employees. So over that 4 years, so this fiscal year we audited, 20 means you paid about $24,000 more than you did 4 years ago without, you know, any salary changes or anything like that. So that's kind of how it affects all the participants, is that increase in the percentage. Let's make a couple other brief notes, but on your page 18 is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, basically your income statement. Your overall revenue increased 5.3%. That was all pretty much in the general fund. It was all in the general fund column. Accommodation tax and hospitality tax, of course, like everyone, it took a halt the last quarter of the fiscal year because of COVID. So it was both down a little bit, but your general fund dollars revenues were up. Franchise fees is what's continued to increase. I mean, you see it when you look at your budgets. And it was franchise fees in fiscal year 18 was $284,000, 19 was $348,000, and 20 it jumped to $513,000. So just a really continued climb. All of your other lines had slight increases as well, but the franchise fees is the one that really has been jumping up every year. And on the expenditures, it was up across all the funds. It was up $81,000, so not significant. $68,000 of that was salaries and the increase in the retirement match. If you remember, in 19, you had some open positions, so you didn't have full-year salaries in 19. In 20, those folks were here for the full year, so you had the full cost of their salaries. It wasn't unexpected because you had budgeted for it and you were still under budget slightly on the expense side, so it wasn't anything that you weren't planning for. So your overall net income for the year was $1,063,000. $658,000 of that, again, was general fund. And when you compare that to what you vote on, budget, the budget you had voted on last year and approved, you were expecting about $189,000 of net income in the general fund, but you ended up, which I think is great, even amongst COVID, with $658,000 of net income. So again, that continues to add to that unrestricted net position. And then the last thing I'll mention is Meadows. COVID really took a hit on that, but we've been tracking that over the years. Every year it's been increasing. The revenue, rental income on it's been increasing, and it was still doing that. And then, of course, come March, it went to nothing. So it did end up losing money this year, about $99,000. The general fund did put a little bit of funding into Meadows, but at the end of the year, it still had a cash balance of about $174,000 in that fund. Overall, again, at least through June 30th, 20, the town has weathered the storm nicely and still in very good financial position. Processes are still very good, and so really just a nice presentation amongst COVID and what's going on. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions, council members? Thank you, sir. Hearing none, I'll tell you, these things just don't happen by themselves. It's the hard work of Ms. Julie Emery and Mr. Brian Cook to keep their eyes on the budget at all times. Several years ago, we had kind of issues where we're all concerned, and these two have shored it up, and probably one of the best municipalities around the county, if not the state. Would you agree?
You're doing really well. I mean, and
you.
you can see that if you go back to, like, say, fiscal year 17 and you track the finances, you can see a steady incline. It really has done well. It really has.
Right. And we thank you for your services. We appreciate
Yes, sir.
it.
Y'all have a good evening. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you. Be safe. Thank you. Well, good news. That's great news. It's always good to see that your fiscal house is in order. And even better news, we moved to Part B, and it's my distinct pleasure and honor to have the opportunity tonight to introduce our new town attorney, Ms. Shannon Burnett. Shannon's one of the few of us who grew up here in Blythewood, went to the the old Blythewood Elementary School, the Bethel Middle School, the Hanbury Junior High School, and then Spring Valley. And then, of course, being the father of a minister, she moved to Kentucky because duty called, and his church called him to move. And even though she stayed away a little while, she came back home to come here and set up her law practice here in Blythewood since 1999, if I'm not mistaken. We've always seen the sign right there on Main Street, Shannon Burnett. We've seen her ads in the smiling face in the newspapers. And so it was great that we had an opportunity to interview great candidates for this position, but it's good we come home to someone who stays local and participates and knows our community. So with that, I'll turn it over. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Can you all hear me okay? I wasn't expecting to say anything, but thank you for what you said. It has been an incredible honor to get to have my practice here in Blythewood, started off in international corporate law, so for me to decide to make my legal home here was a big decision for me, and I never looked back. Barbara Ball actually helped me file my first place for rent, and within a year we moved next door and got to be here, and she's been such a gracious and incredible cheerleader for me through the years to continue to follow. And everyone in the community, I feel like I've given as much of the community as I've been able to give, if not more, from the people here. I'm so honored to part of this and who all gave me that opportunity. Thank you for your faith in me.
Thank you. Warm welcome for Ms. Burnett. And welcome on board. Now we'll move to paragraph 3 tonight, discussion items, and we'll start with paragraph alpha, public safety roadmap and the intergovernmental agreement update. Councilman Sloan Griffin.
Thank you, sir. We're doing this. Okay. We've got the small slide pulled up there. I'll be brief on this because this is still a work in progress. As you all know, we began the journey of renewing our intergovernmental agreements for fire and law enforcement within the town limits. And I just want to give you a quick overview of where we at right now. We started the fire service IGA. So we'll go to the next slide there. So just to give you a little bit of history, I had asked staff to dig up our original agreement. And our original agreement was created on July the 1st, 1990, by then Mayor Roland Barlow. The original IGA, when it was created, had a multi-year piece where it would just kind of roll over unless we needed some changes to it. We could not find a record of set changes to the area as Blythewood began to grow. One thing that I thought that was unique, and I wrote in this history, is that it went for 16 years, that original agreement there. So Councilman Ballman was in the fire service then before retiring, so, you know, just as well as you all that grew up here know that it was predominantly volunteer-based at that time. So that it expired in 2016. So, you know, we still are receiving service, so there's no need for anyone to be alarmed. Yes, that is expired, but if you dial 911 for any service, you will get help as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. So the roadmap of how it looks right now, we had our initial meeting already with Chief Jenkins. Myself and Administrator Cook attended that meeting. It went very well, very well. One thing that I noted, and we're going to see on the next slide, is they were shocked at the growth level of Blythewood. So that let me know that sometime if we don't really sit down at the table with people and let them know exactly what's going on in the area, everybody just don't get out and travel as much as you think. We use the term common sense, but common sense is sometimes not common. But we are growing. We're the second fastest growing municipality in the state, next to Mount Pleasant. So what's next? So we're going to do some joint meetings. Those joint meetings will include all the mayor, council, our legal council, as well as the administrator. It will also include county council members, the newly elected members of our area, District 2 and 7. Gretchen, which I've been in communication with, to get them up to where we at and what we will need their help with there. And then it'll also include City of Columbia fire staff on that piece, from the chief to public education to the fire inspectors there, to give us a little hand there. Then what's next will be the IGA development piece, and that we can look back at the agreements. We'll work with our legal to get that piece, and that'll be between really legal and the county administrator and our administrator, basically on how I was kind of informed on that process with you there, Mayor, receiving those information pieces. And then, of course, we'll come back and review it as council, and then it goes back to you, sir, to sign. Next slide. So currently, we have an ISO rating of 2, which is pretty good. So that keeps our homeowners insurance low. But as we talked about with the chief and his staff, that it could get lower. We could match the city's 1. And that's going to take a little bit of help in extra paperwork pieces. And we'll talk about that shortly. So the current staffing levels, as they described to me, we're 24/7, of course, 2 full-time firefighter EMTs or EMRs stationed out of there. Additional support comes from 25 and 27, and then there's other stations that respond up as needed. We talked about future staffing levels as we continue to grow here, adding 2 more paid staff there. So, and Councilman Baltman will be familiar with this term. They're talking about making it full-time, taking, I guess, pieces of the volunteer network away, and just making it full-time staff there. They also talked about, they shared a new station, and I'll get to the ladder truck second, but a new station because of the growth of the hotels with the height and the new apartments that we're looking at, that we do need a ladder truck in the northeast corner up here. So they're in the process right now trying to get that kind of rearranged to get a ladder truck up this way. One of the problems is 26, Station 26 is not big enough for a ladder truck. So the conversation has begun about building a new station, and that new station will be somewhere around that Farrell Road with a fork in the road right there. So they're looking somewhere down in there. And there's a couple reasons why. Quick access to the interstate gets you anywhere. So they've been doing time studies, and they're willing to share those time studies with us. Then we talked about inspection and public education, and one thing that I brought up to them is, could we, since we're going into a new agreement, since the old agreement, we might not need it as much as help with inspections. We do have a contract service that does the inspections, but what can we get out of this agreement that really could help us out in the future as we continue to grow with residential projects, commercial projects. So they offered the support of the inspectors in the town to actually come out and help us. As you note down there, there's I believe the contract we pay somewhere in the odds of $80K a year I'm not mistaken, Mr. Cook?
It depends on how many inspections they do. It's not just the fire marshal aspect, it's the building code aspect as well. So it's built in a lot, new construction, but also the annual inspections that they do, the fire marshal would do. We pay for that. So, yeah, that's 80,000 is a good ballpark for all of that services. Could be more, could be less, depending on how much work comes in.
So that creates a potential savings there by having that staff come in, and that staff has the enforcement mechanisms there. And we would have to create some ordinances to kind of give them some of that leverage there within that intergovernmental agreement to enforce fire codes and those aspects here. And then the last thing here in this initial meeting that I brought up, and it was kind of funny a little bit, but it's serious too, is the fire hydrants within the town. So if you notice, there are fire hydrants that are not NFPA color coded in the town. We have some fire hydrants that are just straight red. We got a couple of them that's taped up with duct tape and those things, and that creates an issue when responding to fires, other hazardous material calls or whatever they need to connect to those hydrants. Most of the hydrants in town are not in the CAD system. So there's some discrepancies with when you call in, and you won't get it as the caller calling 911. Some board of the responders coming in for the nearest hydrants. So I challenged them because, and I said it's funny, one of the chiefs said, well, all the hydrants are marked. I said, no. So I gave them my address, and we called downstairs to dispatch and ran it. From my house, the nearest hydrant was up at Cert Mill, Blythewood Road. No. That's at least 2 miles maybe. So all hydrants in the town are not mapped. So what I want everyone to note about that is the past couple weeks and probably the next few weeks ahead, you'll see some of the City of Columbia trucks, if not already. They're doing a blitz to make sure that they go back and get all hydrants. This is where Winsboro has not been sharing that data. And I had talks with Mayor Getty about this already, and Director Peak over there in the water. They're working. So last weekend, you would have seen Winsboro in town testing hydrants last weekend. That was one of the reasons why, so that we can get those graphed, get them tested, the pressures, get them painted to the right NFPA color codes to have them injected into the 911 CAD system. So that work has already begun, which Winsboro is creating a mapping layer so that we can see those on the map as well. Like I said, this is the first meeting, so we're going to look at sometime in either January or February to get back in with the next meeting piece and work out all the other details on it. But as far as right now, we're set to go. The city has already came in and started their process of doing these changes. Winsboro is cooperating. Everybody is cooperating. Everybody's working hard to maintain the safety of the citizens of Blythewood. So I'm proud of that, and I'm pleased with the process, progress as of right now. So pending any questions, that concludes this report. And we'll begin to work on the Sheriff's Department IGA after we get the second meeting for the fire service piece there.
That was great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to C, Livability Board. Back to Councilman Sloan Griffin.
So, and I'm going to keep this one brief. I have and now pass out to council and the media if they want the handouts. Just the livability board piece of it. You know, we have boards and commissions already existing, but as we continue to grow and talking with a lot of citizens that have great ideas, and we want to make sure we give them the avenue to help create their green space for town. A walkable community, you know, help us see that. So serve as another advisory board to us. But I'll read the overview, and then we can move on to the next. And I'll leave this for future discussion with us on if this is something we want to do or not. The general overview of this, of the Livability Board. The Livability Board's mission is to serve as a sounding board and provide advice and recommendations to staff on any and all questions concerning parks, recreation, healthy living initiatives, trees and natural assets, greenways, trails, bicycle, pedestrian facilities, and policies that go along with that. The Livability Board may be called upon for advice and recommendations to Town Council in any and all of the following areas: to create and promote an enjoyable place to live, learn, work, and play, to support safe, vibrant spaces in neighborhoods, to promote cultural, socioeconomic, and age diversity, to encourage committed civil events, involvement, and responsibilities, to provide sustainable and healthy choices for transportation, food, and energy use, and to enable faithful stewardship of natural and historic resources. So I'll pass this overview out. There's a few more pieces to it just for future consideration in January. Pending any questions, I said on that.
Questions, council members? Then we'll move to the final discussion item, Film and Music Commission. Councilman Griffin.
Yep. So I have tonight Mr. Andrew Gadgetar. I got your last name right this time. Okay. All right. So we've been in constant communication about, the opportunities that are out there for actual filming, not to be confused with film festivals, but to actually have movies and TV shot here in town and use people from Blythewood, patronize the restaurants, the hotels with people coming in for these movies and other TV activities here. That will bring back income into the town and actually give another light to the town. But tonight, I'm going to let Mr. Andrew Gadgetar, yes, sir, you can come to the mic. And I'm going to let him introduce himself because he has a powerful resume. He's been all over the country, from Hollywood back to Blythewood. So, floor is yours, sir.
Good evening. How are you all doing tonight? Like you said, my name is Andrew Gadgetar. I am actually the first Hollywood accredited producer with the Producers Guild of America ever registered in South Carolina with the Film Commission. My partner, one of my business partners, is actually the first female. So for South Carolina, that's a pretty big deal. South Carolina is not known so much for film, and I'll just give you a couple of stats so that you can kind of get an idea of what we're looking at. And what I mean by that is money that is spent through legislation in regards to film. As you all can understand, the film industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we just get a little piece of it, mostly through our incentives and mostly through things like you said, as far as accommodations, lodging, food, locations, staffing, things of that nature. So just considering South Carolina as a whole, last year, just with 2 productions for film, that's television series, we brought in and employed up to roughly $35 million for film. Now, that sounds like a large number in 1 year, but in comparison to our neighbors of North Carolina and Georgia, looking at 2014 to 2018 in regards to film and how much money goes back into South Carolina between 2014 and 2018 was $270 million in 4 years. Last year, North Carolina spent back into North Carolina $180 million in 1 year. Last year, Georgia spent $2.4 billion. Now, there's several different factors to this, but one of the key notes to understand is looking at the dollar differences. Sorry, there's a spider right here. The dollar differences of how much money is being spent back into the state, and or should I say how much the state made off of this industry. Looking at South Carolina being $35 million last year with 2 shows, and Georgia looking at that astronomical difference being $2.4 billion. We deserve a bigger piece of that pie. And we have every opportunity through film production to make that happen. When I stand in front of legislation with the Film Commission, they only have one question. What do we have and what do we not have that can compete with North Carolina and Georgia? And I always answer with two simple things. We don't have a studio, a major film studio, and we don't have proper incentives. But what do we have that they do use with us? We have beautiful locations and amazing people that are willing to be involved with film production. Last year, I filmed personally right here in Doco Manor. I filmed a feature film, a SAG-AFTRA union film. It involved children that were in schools here, to include my own, that go to Bethel Hanbury, that go to Muller Road Middle, and all the other schools in Blythewood. I did this not even thinking about or looking ahead of what I could possibly do for Blythewood, but it gave me an example of what I can do. That brought over $200,000 back into the town of Blythewood and Columbia. That's just one example. And I'm just a little guy. Well, not by stature, but I'm just a little guy. So just looking ahead, I would like to offer my knowledge, offer my experience between my production company, my film studio that I'm building here, as well as other things that I have with my nonprofit to just connect the dots here to offer opportunities of expansion and growth for the town of Blythewood, to include continuing to film here. After filming, like I said, after filming here last year, it gave me a great taste, and it gave a lot of other people a great taste in their mouth, and I'd love to show you all those examples and continue to grow by doing more. And I welcome any questions that you may have of us.
Any questions, council members? Thank you. Great potential. We'll certainly look forward to hearing from you in the future.
And
Thank
we'll,
you. Thank you for coming tonight.
thank you, sir. We'll continue to work on some of those
Yeah.
pieces there and bring back to council at the appropriate time.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll move tonight to the action items, paragraph 4. And of course, citizen testimony regarding action items. If at some point the issue comes up that you want to speak about, just let us know, and we will certainly call upon you to make public comments. We'll begin with A, the mask ordinance extension, ordinance number 2020-017. Mr. Cook.
Mr. Mayor, this is just renewing of the previous mask ordinance. This ordinance is 2020-017. It's an emergency ordinance requiring the wearing of face masks to help alleviate the spread of COVID-19. It is, with the exception of a few dates, the exact same ordinance that you approved last time, and it's just renewing it for another 60 days.
Questions, council members?
Mr. Cook, when does the current mask ordinance expire?
I'd have to look at the calendar to give you an exact date. We moved it up a little bit. It would be before we had a regularly scheduled council meeting in December. It would be before that time, so we'd have to have a special council meeting if we didn't do this today. It was also moved up, again, in case we don't have a meeting in December.
Okay, so if we approve this ordinance again tonight, will it be a 60 days extension from the expiration of the current ordinance? So in other words, if it expired, let's just say December 15th, this was put us into February 15th, I believe. It's approximately 60 days. Is that how this would work, or would we have to come in before? Would this cover us through January? essentially? Would it get us, would this ordinance cover so that we could renew it in January if needed? Or do we have to call a special meeting before our January council meeting?
It would be effective from today, 60 days out from today.
Can we not future date it? It says this emergency order shall be effective beginning on blank at blank o'clock. Could we not make it the day before it expires?
You could.
Well, I think the state statute says it can't exceed 60 days. So if we did it today, you only have 60 days.
No, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
but this ordinance wouldn't go into effect until 15 or 20 days from now.
You could, if you wanted to, we could date it, ending date, which is hypothetical, say it's December 5th. We'd start from that point on, it'd be 60 days from that if it'd be,
If we don't have a December meeting, that would at least cover us there, so we could go and
Well,
look
we're
at it.
going to have a special call meeting anyway for employee interviews. So you'll be okay. I mean,
Okay,
we've got to get together before, you know.
that's fine. Then I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay?
Second.
Been probably motion and seconded to approve the extension of mask ordinance number 2020-017. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The ordinance is extended. Part B, 2020 Holiday Market Final Report. Mr. Hastrock.
Thank you. As you know, I always write up a summary for any event we do that's funded by SAT, LAT, or HTAX. So we had the holiday market here in November 5 through 7. The HTAX, the original award was $5,000. Looking at their financials with what the town gave them and the membership fees and things like that, they show a revenue of $7,020. Their expenses, $5,176.74. If the 20% HTAX is approved, their net income would be $1,843.26. The HTAX funds, there's a typo on G, it's not funds of 500, it'd be funds of 5,000. So with their expenses being $51,76.74, if you approve the 20%, that's 5,000. So about the HTAX funds would account for 96.5% of expenses. There were 18 vendors here. There was a nice mix. I really enjoyed the fellow with the guitars, the cigar box guitars, Outlaw. I think Outlaw, wasn't it? One of the names, Outlaw Guitars or something like that? Or Southpaw, yeah. So 18 vendors participated. There was a nice range. Susan estimated about 500 attendees. She actually had a sign-in book so people could write down where they came from. Most of the customers came from Blythewood, Columbia, Midlands area. But she also had customers from Myrtle Beach, Sumter, Charleston, Greenville, and actually some out-of-state ones that were recorded. She estimated sales $10,100. Again, main expense is advertising, insurance, and venue rental for renting the manor for 3 days. So that's basically it. They've requested to do it again here next year and also in 2022. And that's really all I have. If you have any questions, Susan is here. Like I said, if the 20% would be $1,000.
Questions or comments? And I will say, I know it's logistically difficult, but if we're doing it in conjunction with the Veterans Day, so if there's any way you can keep it Sunday, because there were a lot of people out here who would have easily walked over here. I know that's hard, but just a recommendation. And I personally met 3 people from West Virginia who came, and they also came to the Veterans Day the next day, so.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
I just have one question, and this could be for Ms. Pence, if that's okay. if the 20% is approved and you show a net income of $1,800, what do you do with that $1,800? You just stick it in the bank and save it for the next event? Okay, that's perfect answer. That's all I want to know. But theoretically, if we're in a non-COVID environment, you should have more vendors, which would create a larger vendor fee and a larger membership fees for you. Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Steve, do you have dates for next year already booked or no?
Yeah, first weekend in December.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, Larry, we're talking about the excess net income, 1843 for the Blythewood Artists Guild Holiday Market. The reason why they had excess left over was obviously COVID kept a lot of people away that they expected to come. However, they had a good turnout, approximately 500 shoppers over 3 days, people from out of state and out of town. And they're looking at the first weekend in December for next year's holiday market.
That would also potentially coincide with the tree lighting ceremony, which could line up quite well.
If we don't have a COVID environment, we'll go back to the first Sunday after Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's when the
Which
tree
was
lighting ceremony-
traditionally-
okay.
We moved it, well, this year I'd asked to move it because we weren't going to have a parade, so put it in the middle. So people can, the ones who do go for Thanksgiving won't miss it. You'll be back the following weekend. Any other comments? So we're looking at,
I'll make a motion, we approve the 20%.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'll second it.
okay, it's been probably motioned and seconded to approve the 20% H tax, which will be $1,000. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. Now we will move to the 2020 Oktoberfest final report. Mr. Hastrock.
Yes, sir. Oktoberfest was in October on the 17th. The original award was $16,500. 20%, if approved by y'all, would be $3,300. Looking at Phil's spreadsheet financials, he reported revenue of $35,246.50, reported expenses of $34,718.53, for a reported net income of $527.97. However, if you approve the 20%, his net income would be higher with the $3,827.97. As reported in his report, estimated attendance 2,000 plus. I was here. It was a big event. It was busy all day. Food vendors did very well, I think. One thing that did impact his budget, and he's here, he can address it, is he did have extra expenses because of COVID. He did a really good job of diagramming out and making people social distance. He had those great hand sanitizer stations which throughout the amphitheater area. So there was additional expense to put on this event in a COVID environment. Again, you know, he got a lot of people came. from the Midlands area, but he also reported people from Mount Pleasant, Greensboro, Augusta, Chattanooga, lots of different expenses, obviously. And, you know, he had some sponsorships and ticket sales, beer sales, things like that. And he had some commercial sponsors also. Looking at his information, he's got a couple more little receivables and payables coming in. And we do have it on the agenda for next year already. So if awarded, the 20% based on his final report would be $3,300. And Phil is here if you have any questions.
Comments or questions, council members? I think it was a great event. I think we'll get the word out about the Volksmarch again last year, because I walked with 4 people from Lexington, by the way, so. And they had been stationed in Germany with the military years prior, and that's a big event in Germany, is to do the local Volksmarches. And it was nice because we got to stop by every business in the town of Blythewood. Most were very receptive and had tables set up to give you out little advertising gifts, so it was a great event. I really enjoyed it. But it did take 2.5 hours from the time you start here and you go all the way around McNulty and you stop and talk to everybody, then you go across the bridge to the Food Lion Shopping Center, then you come back and then you go down, you know, Hardee's, San Jose, the hotels,
sure.
and back. So it takes a while, but well worth it to see the business owners and talk to them. And hopefully we'll get the word out, and more people will do that next year, and the youth will come out.
Sure.
It was a lot of fun. And thanks to the Richland County Sheriff's Department for providing the crosswalk officers to make sure we could get over the interstate without difficulty. Further comments?
Yes, just one thing, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
I also attended. I thought the event was very well attended and very well run. I think that Mr. Fry's estimate of attendance is spot on. I would call it a flowing crowd throughout the day. One thing in paragraph B where it says you failed to collect zip codes from cars entering the event, just a heads up, with the new policies and procedures we're going to put in place, that can't be something you miss next year. Other than that, I think everything went well. I enjoyed doing the cow patty bingo. We only had 2 girls that went. We had to improvise. But overall, I think it's a good event, and look forward to the upcoming Rib Fest and the next Oktoberfest.
Comments or questions? Looking for 20% H-tax award of $3,300.
Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
It's been probably motioned and seconded to approve the 20% remaining $3,300. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we will move to the discussion, or action item, December council meeting, December 29th, 2020. The debate here is, do we have enough business to meet at such a high peak time? So I'll turn it over to Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So basically, the discussion is if we want to have our council meeting as scheduled for it would be the 29th. Monday is a holiday for the town, so it'd be Tuesday the 29th. Whether it's the will of council to have a meeting as scheduled on the 29th of December or not, or if there's another day in between now and then that council would like to meet. Of course, you will be meeting, if it's your will, to have a special call meeting between now and then to hire the new town administrator. So if any business came up between those dates, you would have that opportunity as well. Just a reminder that the 24th and 25th and the 28th are town holidays.
So gentlemen, with that, I would recommend to cancel the regularly scheduled December council meeting in lieu of a special call meeting, which we're going to have to do. I believe I have 26 resumes, myself and Mr. Cook, for applicants for the town administrator position. On Monday, we're getting together to cut that number at least in half, because there are obviously some very well qualified, some not so much. And so what we'll do is then get that half number to you all to then start looking and get a numerical grading system individually, and then we'll rank order, and then we'll decide the top 5 or 6, whatever be your pleasure, to do face-to-face interviews. And my goal is to get the individual an offer 2 weeks prior to Mr. Cook departing, and that way they'll have an overlap period and be able to have a successful handoff of all the open activities that he's currently working on. Any comments?
I just want you to be aware of, I have a potential conflict in December the 14th. I've been drawn for jury duty that week, starting that Monday, so I could be out of pocket that whole week.
So before the 14th, or we could do a Zoom late, but okay. Okay.
I just want you to
Thank
be
you.
aware.
Any other comments about the regular scheduled December council meeting on the 29th of December?
I'm good with the cancellation.
I'm good.
Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion, we cancel the regular scheduled December meeting in lieu of a special called meeting.
Second.
There's been probably motion and second to cancel December meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Now we move to Part F, Hospitality Tax Guidelines / Application H-Tax. Mr. Brock, would you like to speak, or Mr. Cook?
Mr. Cook can go. real
Okay,
quick
Mr.
and
Cook,
we-
please.
Steve? It was kind of a joint effort. With
Mr. Hasterrock. Hot potato.
Just real brief, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As you may recall, we have been working on hospitality tax guidelines and a new application. You have that before you in your packet, between Steve and Sarah Lynn doing most of the heavy lifting, and we kind of put it all together. Of course, Councilman Brock has been involved with a state accommodation and hospitality tax. Later, we'll bring to you the local accommodation tax as well, but it's a lot of this is very similar under state law, but we wanted to, as a staff and apparently the council as well, get you a draft guidelines and applications that we can start working to get to a final form that we can start using. The kind of crux of it is to have more information provided by the applicants, and you'll see in this the guidelines in the application process. Also to lay out the specific path forward every year, so everybody will know where to start, where to end, when they're going to get paid, and what the rules are. So that's a long-winded way of saying that we are trying to be more transparent and more clear in what we require. And the same being said, what is required of the potential applicants. So Mr. Hasterrock can probably dive in a little bit more with details.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Brian is exactly right. This is a real overhaul and upgrade of the application form that we had before. We give them a timeline, we give them the exact wording from the statutes, so they know exactly what's, what they can do and what they can't do. If you look at page 2, there's under item 3, this tells them, well, this is what you can use H-tax money for. We have rules of disbursement because there's different types of organizations that can use the money, destination marketing organizations, CVBs, event-based projects. Page 3, very good, again, shows you what the eligible expenses are and gives you examples of ineligible expenses. And we took a lot of this from the TURC, which is the Tourism Expenditure Review Committee, which oversees really state accommodations tax, but we used a lot of the information from them and some of the work they've done in Richland County and their grant workshops and things like that. What, to kind of dovetail with what Mr. Brock said, if you look at the actual application, we basically are asking them the same things that we did before. We're just being a lot more clear. We're being a lot more concise. Describe the project, how we're asking them more how are you going to do it, and how are you going to document that you did it. On the budget information, we want them now to give us a total budget, but also break out what the H-tax expenditures were, not lump it together into the general budget. So, because again, we've just given them examples on this is what you can spend the H-tax money for, and this is what you can't. We're also asking them, yes, okay. We're asking for more information, more complete information, and then if you go to the final report, we're asking them really to explain where their numbers came from. We're asking for empirical data. Ticket sales is one way. They can do sign-in sheets. They could have zip code stores. Take a sample of zip codes coming in. So we really want them to show us, okay, you said that these are the number of people, and this is where they're coming from. So now we want the data. They also, I think, can work with the hotels a little closer to get the number of hotel rooms that they project and also the actual. So this is a big upgrade for us and for them. I think it's a more complete professional application.
Okay. And then this, just for the good of the group, this spawned from the fact that we looked at ourselves as a board, and of course we have the three regulatory responsibilities of strategic vision, set the strategic vision for the town, and hire the right town administrator to carry out that vision. Fiduciary responsibilities that we have to make sure we're good stewards of the resources that come in and out, whether it be operational funds or H-tax or A-tax, and bring our personal experiences and connections in our neighborhoods to bring new ideas into the town of Blythewood. So we realized that we were failing in fiduciary responsibilities in that we're being good stewards and trying to stimulate business in the town, but Mr. Brock took point here to say, but we're not getting the receipt back, because that's what he does in his career, personal career. And so we need to tighten up our shot group, as we call it in the Army, and make sure that we're getting the correct information back so any citizen who wishes to review those would have a clean, clear bill of where the money came, where it went, and that we're good stewards of our resources. So kudos to Mr. Brock for taking charge of this, and Steve working with this, and Mr. Cook as well. But what we want to do is make a clear application packet where everyone sees the statute, you see the requirement, and you have to meet certain eligibility requirements, and then you come before the town council and ask, and then we're going to be a little more responsible with our questions in the future, and we're going to ask for more receipts to make sure that we're safeguarding our town resources. Any other comments, council members? Mr. Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of the points that I wanted to put out, I also want to thank Sarah Lynn, thank Steve, Mr. Cook, for their work and due diligence, and Councilman Sloan Griffin actually kind of kicked this off, and then they kind of handed the ball off to me, and I started running with it. So thank you, Councilman Sloan Griffin. This particular document and the state accommodations document is a living document. This is not the end-all, be-all. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner, the bottom right corner, it says revised 11/17/2020. I expect that date to change fairly consistently. It'll at least change once when we update the dates for the next fiscal year. A couple of things that we've done is we've established timelines. We've established an open and a close, and those need to be a hard open and they need to be a hard close. And if you're a day late, then I'm sorry. You know, the whole saying with day late, dollar short, well, I'm sorry. If you don't comply with the roadmap that we've given and you are denied your funding, I'm sorry. At some point, we have to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, this is our vision, these are our goals, and this is what we want to do, and then we can take what we have left and we can divvy it up amongst those who also support the town, because we've talked about engaging in capital projects, possibly acquiring real estate, and start investing in the town. Well, what this does is it gives us insight prior to the budgeting process to say, okay, this is how much money we have, this is how much money we think we're going to have, and here's how much we have to allocate, and we can decide up front if we want to do 100, 200, 500,000, zero. sky's kind of the limit as far as what we want to do. And also, like Mr. Cook said, it creates a standardized process. Everyone is playing by the same rules. So people know what's expected of them, and they know what's expected of us. And it's all very clear. If we make any changes, we would obviously, I don't foresee any changes midstream, mid-year. You know, it's a fairly complete document, but it's not, it's a more of an internal policy / guideline. It doesn't require any kind of vote to make a change. You know, it lays out exactly what the Turk Committee says we can and cannot spend money on. And when individuals or groups apply for said funds, we're going to start holding them responsible for the rules that have been created that the Turk Committee can hold us responsible for, because if we violate the rules, they can claw that cash back. Hasn't happened, but it could very well if we don't play by the rules that have been established by the state. So I think it's a great start, but, you know, it is just that. And, you know, hopefully at some point when our new applications start rolling in, we can take all this data, we can combine it, put it in a database, and we can click a button and you start getting a history of these events so we can actually track how they're doing and who's in compliance and who isn't. So
Scan, PDF scans of all receipts.
Yep,
open to
put everything
public.
in there. We can scan this, you can take the quantitative data, stick it in an Excel spreadsheet, look at year over year, we can create lovely pie charts and see if we are getting the return on investment that we should. Because I think that when the rubber hits the road, we'll find out that we're really not getting the return on the investment that we should. And so we can tighten up the ship.
I think we are, but we're going to get bigger return on investment. I agree. Yes, sir. I just have two recommendations. Who has this? Who owns this? Is it on your computer or?
It's mine and Sarah Lynn.
Well, I would change, just to, like Mr. Brock just said, there's going to be changes every year. Well, you can alleviate that by making it a firm date, like the first Friday in December to the first Monday in February, and it'll stay the same regardless of.
I say,
And the same fiscal year, just leave it July 1st to June 30th, and the year is XX. So you won't have to keep changing this every time you go through. But if you make the dates, the third Friday in May, the first of, Monday in July, so on and so forth, you'll never have to change it again. And secondly, Mr. Cook, I had promised all the planning commissioners, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Board of Architectural Review, that they would get these so they could give us their feedback before we go final and start a vote on it. So if you would, you and Sarah Lynn, send this out to all the board members. They can get it out in the communities, get any further input that they see. Because I want it to be staffed fully, like Mr. Brock knows, so that we get complete input before we go final with this. But we need to do that very soon in January, because the deadline is what, February 3rd?
February 3rd.
Yeah, so we got to have it at least finished by January 3rd so we can get it on the street and the folks have time to apply if they're going to request funds. Any other comments?
So I got one
Go
other
ahead.
question. Great piece. I love it from day one. How accessible are we making this? I know we looked at doing an online process, going through the applications, and I know that that piece was a little costly on the online piece, but where are we at making this accessible via internet for folks to put in for?
So the online component, obviously, if that's something that council would like staff to move forward with, that's certainly discretion. Staff recommendation at this point would be not to have that, just for the cost that's involved with that. However, kind of a less expensive alternative, obviously, we have available on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I was going to
Yep.
say.
With the idea being, generally, if I'm looking to get money from somebody, I'm gonna find where the application is.
Yeah.
So it'll be on our website, it'll be easy to find.
Yeah.
Unless there's something additional you guys would like us to do.
No, sir. I know we went through that piece when we piloted the program, the online database that I think the city of Columbia uses.
Yeah, it's a good program,
is-
a good company.
Yes.
And it's definitely organized well, and Columbia does have a good example of how it's used. It's just on a larger scale.
Yes.
obviously,
I just want to make sure that it's online, accessible for folks to find.
Yep, that should be.
That
easy
it's
enough.
not a hidden document.
Yeah, as soon as we approve it,
Oh, yeah.
they can put PDF right on there. That's a good point.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we're talking about doing it as a fillable PDF.
Yes,
Well, you
sir.
can do that, sure.
Yes.
Fillable PDF. I want to make a comment, though. There's really kind of a big change in our procedure because now we have 3 different forms. We're going to have SAT, hospitality tax, and LAT, and they have different rules and they have different regulations. So you can't really put those 3 forms on our website. I mean, you can, but think about this now. How are you going to control which group, which event fills out which form? So what this really in effect does, we have to predetermine which pot of money we are going to fund this event, Rib Fest, Holiday Market, whatever, because we have to tell them, this is the form you need to fill out.
Yep.
So that's a little bit different because we always have leeway, obviously, but, and we have historical data from the last 4 or 5 years, we kind of know which events we fund out of which pots of money. But if you're going to have those forms on our website, we have to say, okay, you're going to be funded out of SAT, so you need to fill out the SAT form. It's a little bit different, something we still have to kind of think about a little bit. The other thing I want to mention, we can leave the form without the fiscal year on it, but if there are any events that are going to happen in the spring, they're going to have to fill out a form for FY 2021 spring, and they're going to have to fill out the form for FY 2022.
That's right. It's
Because
gonna be
we're,
the first group is going to be
Gonna be
painful.
painful.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
and what I'm thinking is the rodeo. If he moves to April, well, he's got to fill out one for April.
Right.
And the following April.
That's right.
Baseball tournament is another
They'll do that
one.
one time, and then they'll be caught up, and every year after that, it'll be the
Yeah,
same.
so if anybody's going to have an event in FY 2021, they're going to have to actually fill out 2 forms, or, 2 years' worth of applications and get it to us by February 3rd. So I'm just kind of pointing that out. But by having all the application in by the February 3rd, it helps us in our budgetary
Now, right,
process.
and then like Mr. Brock said, we'll have it all listed out
Yeah.
instead of us voting on individuals as you bring them forward, which,
Right, so
even
we're-
though we've done a good job of allocating in the budget items for those things.
So we're going to have to do this pretty soon because we're opening it up on December 7th.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, December 7th, and it will be due on the 3rd of February.
It's approximately 2 months.
Yes.
2 months,
So it'll be,
Yeah.
it'll be fine, because you all are going to reach out to all the people in the past and let them know that this
Yeah,
change is
that's
in
what
effect.
we're going to have to
They'll
do.
read it in the paper, whatever, but yeah, we've got to get back on track so we can have it before our budget meeting in March, yeah.
Right.
But yes, sir, Mr. Cook.
And potentially, if you'd like us to, we could, staff and any participant that wanted to, we may have a workshop, maybe advertise a workshop, just to kind of go, just an opportunity for our staff if that's something you'd like us to do.
I mean, if you'd like to, I've just wanted to get it out to all our board members and commissioners and let them source it in their areas, but it would have to be the first week of December. They'd have to, because we have to act on it pretty quickly and then get it before us at the special call meeting to approve it and then go from there.
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
So one thing that I think we forgot about, and you just reminded me, Mr. Cook, of the online presentation piece. And I can't remember if it's the city or the county that does like that little workshop piece that explains the process when it starts and all of that piece. So I do think that'll be a good thing if we could advertise that and hold a workshop. That not only gives the one that normally applies the opportunity, but that gives new folks an opportunity to apply as well.
I mean, that's fine, we can do that. I mean, folks know about hospitality and accommodation staff.
Yeah, I don't quite understand why we're necessarily scrambling to create a workshop, an in-person workshop. We could create a slideshow with a voiceover that we upload to the website, and you just download it, and it gives you a
That's what-
step-by-step instruction.
That's what they have online.
Yeah, we could
the
do that.
city and
And-
the county.
And to answer your question, Mr. Hastrock, in regards to which form do you use, we should create a little FAQ page where you can just download some, hit some of the highlights. But quite frankly, a lot of these events, it could be a combination of both.
Right. Now, that's next year. We don't have time for that right now. Right now, we need to get these two things out to our commissioners. We need to get it before us in the next 2 weeks, and then we need to post it on the website. People who know about H-Tax and A-Tax, they know where to go get it, they're gonna do it. So if we want new people in, call them. But we don't have time to do all these things during the holiday season before February 3rd comes. What I don't want to do is miss the people who've been participating in this process for the past 5 to 10 years because we're messing around with great idea, videos and voiceovers.
Right.
Granted, they're going to be good and that will help. But right now, if we do these things, we're going to miss out on a deadline. And then, so all this will be for nothing.
I think it might, yeah, I think it might be helpful too, soon, if we do an FAQ and have something like, if you're going to do this, then you need to apply for SAT, or well, now that I think about that, I'm going to have to think about that.
Steve, I think you're just a nice guy, but see, these people know how to read, and it tells right on here what it's for and what
Right.
it's not for.
That's true.
So they can do it.
Well, the answer is you download all 3 forms, and then you pick the one that you think fits the
You
best.
pick the one you think. Now, if there's a problem, we would advise them, okay, you would be better off going for the other one. Or you would do that, but let them, come on, they're all grown people. They can do it.
Well, they'll certainly contact
Yeah.
us if they have questions.
Yeah. Any other comments? Great comments, by the way. I mean, I like that. Don't get me wrong. Walking through like they do in Columbia and Richland County is great, but I think our folks know.
And we pretty much know through our historical data which events we fund out of which pots of money.
Yeah. Any other comments? Oh, yeah, Mr. Phil Fry has signed up to speak. 171 Elton Walker Road, H and A tax application. Mr. Fry.
Tax application. Relatively the same questions. Number one, I see that this is action item F. Does that mean we're voting on this as a final resolution tonight?
We will vote on the procedure, but go ahead. For you, yes. You mean you're, we already voted for yours. What are you asking? What's your question? Ask your
It says under action items, that is what we're talking about now.
Yes, sir.
So item F says hospitality tax guidelines, application H tax. Is that a vote for tonight? That this is going to be adopted as written?
It could be, but you didn't hear our discussion just now?
I did hear the
Okay.
discussion, which confused me because it seemed like it was an action item.
Right.
Because, well, I'm looking at the date that this document was presented, and I know where I was, and I received it on Thursday, which would not give you a whole lot of time to have any input, which I would love to have some input. Firstly, and I'll allude to the same question that Mr. Hastrock brought up. Baseball, rodeo, if they're coming this coming year and then have to do 2022 at the same time. Firstly, I would think that by now they ought to have 2021 as far as their, and I don't know, I don't run either or am part of either one of those organizations as far as any input as to their applications.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but this policy would not go into effect if you filled it out in December to the month of December and January of 2020 and 2021. That goes into effect for July 1, 2021 and through June 30 of 2022. So if they are coming to apply for funds this spring, they wouldn't fill out this application because this doesn't apply till fiscal year 2022.
That's not my point.
That
My
answers your
point is
question.
this. Here we are. They have not come in COVID environment. Who knows? But what is it going to be in 2021? How do you project 2022? 15, 18 months out. I personally plan way ahead. Always have. And case in point, whether it's baseball in April or rodeo, we're having Rib Fest in March. Before I know what the environment is on this Rib Fest, by this document, by February 3rd, I have to have March of 2022 in place. That would preclude me to, gosh, where do I put the numbers? What do I project?
I would say budget accordingly.
Yeah.
And we certainly would. I think we're premature with finalizing this. That's my point.
All right, thank you.
We're not finalizing this tonight, though.
Any other comments?
Question, we're not, this is just going to be opinion through council to the commissioners
The
and
intent of
boards?
the intent of having these two items as action items were to, what is the way ahead? Are we gonna go with this as written? Are we gonna, what I recommended, distribute to the council, the commissioners, and then get it back the first week of December, and then meet it and vote on it in the special call meeting? Originally, we were gonna finalize it and then vote it on December 29th. Well, we canceled December 29th. Now we're gonna have something around the,
Midpoint?
yeah, 10th of December or somewhere around there to talk about hiring a new town administrator, at which time we'll also have people's input back from this, if there is any. It looks pretty cut and dry to me, but there may be.
Straightforward.
I think,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's cut and dry.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's going to be some people that want to take some things out and add something to make it more easy on one side or the other, but it's a process that we talked about.
Yep.
It looks good. Staff worked diligently on it, and I think the gist of us up here, I think we like it. I think we can see it moving forward. Yes, it's going to put a little bit more work on the applicant, in that process in the beginning, but I don't see any way that we could make that process, less painful in the beginning.
I mean, it's not only that. What it does is if you have had one or two or three events, then you should pretty well have your finances ironed out. And so whether your event is in August or April of fiscal year 2022, you should have a ballpark idea of where you need to budget. And what this will do is, let's just say that you apply for $20,000 and you come before council and we say, you know what, you're only getting 10 this year. Well, now you've got, 10 months to accommodate that budget cut or that funding request shortfall in the applicant's eyes versus you're 2 months out and you only get $10,000 when you were anticipating 20. I think this gives us some leeway, but it also gives those who are further down the pipeline a fair amount of leeway to plan. And if there are setbacks, then you have to plan accordingly. At some, I see it being painful for someone who's planning a first-time event in the spring or summer.
And that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
That's where it would be painful
Yes,
at.
the first-timers.
Not, I don't think any other events would have any problems with going
I
through the
agree.
process.
I agree.
We talked about like the rodeo that kept coming up. I was there, my son, for his first rodeo. He loved it. So, and I don't think they would have a problem with going through the process.
Yeah, they've been around 10 years.
They've
They've got it down to a science, or they should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really think that this is something we could move on.
That's fine, and that is an option, absolutely. I've recommended one change, and that was to change the dates instead of,
Six.
to make it like the first Monday in the month, the last Friday in the month, and it'll standardize it for all time.
I actually disagree with that.
Okay, that's fine.
Simply because when you put a number down, there's no discrepancy. Like somebody's first Monday, they may not look at the calendar and get it right. I think if we put a hard date on there, there's no room for error.
It won't hurt my feelings. You just have to redo this thing every year then.
Well, it's going to be constantly updated
Yeah,
anyway.
okay.
So,
All right.
I would like to ask one question.
Go ahead, Steve.
For any applicant for FY 2021, which form do you want to use? Are we going to use this old application or?
Yes.
The old application?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay.
This will be used for fiscal year 2022.
And we've already budgeted for the
Yeah,
remainder of the year.
that's already
so-
been, that's already been budgeted. This is for the fiscal year 2022 budget.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
That's a good
Correct me if
question.
I'm
No, that's
wrong.
good clarification. That's exactly right. This will take effect for, according to the way y'all have written it, is fiscal year 21 to 22, to June 22.
Yeah. Yeah, the process will start now, but it doesn't go into effect until, like, we'll budget in, was it April, May?
March, April,
March,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For the
Right.
following year. And then we'll use these to make our budgets for the next budget. Like
And
the
we
current
did-
year, our current fiscal year, we've already got that budget.
Yeah, it's already-
Those funds are allocated. Whether or not they're approved, I guess, is another
A
story.
lot of
but-
that'll carry over because a lot of those events were canceled.
Correct.
Sporting events.
And we don't have that many events
Yeah.
for FY 2021. Well, the rodeo, depending on where Buck's going to do it, baseball tournament, there's a couple other golf tournament, park shuttle. Okay. Thank you.
All right, council members? Any other questions or comments? So what say you about the hospitality tax guidelines application?
I personally feel that overall, it's, aside for some potential comments, I don't really know how we can strengthen it anymore at this point. And I think Mr. Cook would probably echo this. I think it's ready for prime time. And again, it is a living document. If something goes amiss, we can edit it, and we can edit it on the fly. It doesn't have to, I don't believe it has to come back before a council for a minor amendment. It shouldn't come back before council to make date changes. That seems,
So,
we've got the right statutes, we've got the right requirements, we've listed the right expenses, the right uses. If there's a use that we feel like we need to add, we can add that. If we've, need to remove an expense, we can remove that, things like that. But
No.
I think those would be more discussion and noted items versus required action. I think it's good.
I would
Can we
still
make
like
a
to
motion?
I would still like to send it out and let the.
Oh, that's
We
fine.
could prove it now, and then, like Mr. Brock is saying, I still want everybody to take a look at it, just in case there's something they would like to see.
Should we make a motion to approve pending any major amendments to the policy from?
Well,
the
yeah,
Planning
I would
Commission?
recommend you make a motion to approve it as written, and if we need to change it, we can change
Okay.
it in December or whatever.
Then I'll make a motion, we approve as presented.
second.
It's been probably motion is seconded to approve the hospitality tax guidelines and application packet. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it, motion carries. Now we go to the state accommodations tax, same discussion.
It's essentially the same with a few more restrictions.
Right.
Which are outlined on page, paragraph 3, the allocations and criteria that we have to adhere to. I've never really been a big fan of the 80-20 split. I think it should be a little 70-30 or so on, but that's not really enough to hold up the train. State and local just have a little more restrictions than hospitality.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also got the 30% that we send down to the CVB, which I have big plans for, which we will discuss at our next meeting. One thing that I would like to point out is that the ATAX committee is comprised of 4 members from the hospitality, 2 members from lodging, and 1 cultural liaison. State statute requires 4 members from hospitality, 2 of which have to be lodging. So if council decided they wanted to actually interject some at-large individuals into the ATAX committee, we can.
Yeah.
Historically, I believe it has been filled with individuals within the hospitality and lodging sectors in town, but it doesn't have to be everyone on that committee. So that's just something for everyone to think about. I'm not saying that any action is required to change the makeup of ATAX. I know sometimes Mr. Hasrock will echo, it's hard to get people to serve on the ATAX committee, especially when you need 2 individuals, some lodging, and you only have 3 hotels. So, but that is something, because if you look at the form, it says, you have to have 2 of these, 1
Statute,
liaison,
yeah.
and then there's 2 blanks, so. And other than the restrictions and the allocations that we have to do, it's more or less the same. And it also is, I think, polished in prime time and ready to go.
Mr. Cook, comments? Mr. Hastrock, anything about the state accommodations?
We basically followed the same format for the H-Tax, and Mr. Brock's exactly right. One difference is on the SAT form, we tell them who the committee members are. But timeline, the same. We follow the same format, given the state regs, what's eligible, what's not eligible. The big difference with the SAT money is all we know is the 65, 35, 5%. That there's certain ways you have to allocate some of the money. But the application, final report, pretty much the format of the application, it all, and we did that on purpose. We wanted them to all follow the same general format.
Right.
Also, one other thing, I believe that with state accommodations, and I believe this also applies to local accommodations, we have to immediately spend the 30%, and then we have to spend the remaining balance that's the 65% within 2 years, yes. So there are time restrictions on this as well.
Right.
But-
Immediate is a relative term, but yes.
Immediate is
you're
relative,
supposed
yes,
to
but.
Obligate
yes.
it, yeah. You're right.
And with SAT, we have to report to the Turk.
Correct,
The H-Tax and LAT, we don't.
Right.
correct.
That's right. All right. Further conversation about the state accommodations tax guidelines and application.
If there's none, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented.
It's been probably motioned and seconded to approve the state accommodations tax guidelines and application packet. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. And lastly, before open citizen comment, we just have before you, council members, the 2021 meeting calendar. This is calendar year 2021, starting in January, ending in December. And of course, as standardized, the Planning Commission meets the first Monday of every month unless it's on a holiday. Board of Architectural Review and the Board of Zoning Appeals as needed on the third Monday of the month. Town Council always on the fourth Monday of the month unless it's a holiday. And then in yellow on your calendar are all the federal holidays that are given to the town employees.
I'll make a motion we approve as presented, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
It's been probably motioned and seconded to approve the 2021 meeting calendar as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Now we move to paragraph 5, open citizen comments. Any comments tonight for the good group?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I
please,
may
Mr.
just
Cook.
add one thing. This is from Mr. Gorge, Malcolm Gorge. He attended tonight's TPAC meeting. A very brief report from Mr. Gorge is that he expects the Blythewood road widening to potentially move forward in the first quarter of 2021. He reports right-of-way issues still exist, but center around access and a resolution is in sight. He also reports that Michael Niermeyer from Richland County will be making a presentation about our road projects at the Chamber Breakfast on December 8th. And that is all that he reported.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Councilman Larry Griffin, any council members receive any texts or emails to bring forward today? Mr. Cook, do you see any communication?
I'll add one more thing.
Oh, please, Mr.
Mr.
Brock.
Cook,
Mayor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Griffin, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Larry.
just little bit of information is that I received, call from the district office, and they informed me that they're gonna do groundbreaking ceremonies at Bethel Hanbury on December 17th at 4 o'clock.
It's a Thursday.
You ever hear me, Mr. Cook?
Yeah, we heard you. Thank you. We're just writing it down.
They got it?
All right.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
I have one more thing to add.
Oh, please, Mr. Brock.
And I do believe I can speak for you and the rest of the council when I say, Mr. Cook, it has been a pleasure to work with you. I am very saddened that you're leaving to go to Goose Creek, but I wish you well. I believe the rest of the council, the mayor, media, everyone wishes you well on your future endeavors. You have a home here. Do not be afraid to come back and eat some ribs or drink some beer with us. And I wish you the best, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you
Very
for
much
what you've done for
appreciate-
the town.
Yeah, very much appreciate each of you and enjoyed my time in Blythewood very much, so thank you kindly.
Now, don't cry. We have a farewell. We have
Yeah,
a farewell
that's it.
scheduled.
Save your tears,
Yeah.
Brock. Sad councilman.
Larry, go ahead. Were you saying something? I'm sorry. I stepped on you there.
You talking to me?
Yeah, go ahead. You were trying to say something?
Yeah, I was telling Mr. Cook, I didn't know we ran him off so fast. You've been here long enough to run that fast. We're gonna miss you. We're gonna miss you. You did a great job. I want you to personally know that. Appreciate everything you did to help me personally and the council. Thank you, sir.
He's not finished yet. Y'all don't write him off yet. He's still on
Thanks,
the
sir.
payroll. Any other comments? We're looking for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
So probably motion is seconded to adjourn tonight's meeting. Any further conversation? We're going to have a special call meeting probably around the second week of December. I have to get with them individually, and then we'll set it, and we'll let everyone know. The purpose of which, one, will be obviously to interview the new town administrator candidates and to carry on any other important business for December. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.